Hello everyone, welcome back to the Check-In with Dillan. There are certain losses that don't just break your heart, they rearrange your life. They change the way you move through the world, the way you love, the way you achieve, the way you forgive, the way you decide what matters to you. In this episode, I'm talking with Sabrina Clark Rohde about losing her dad suddenly when she was just 18 years old, right on the edge of adulthood. And this episode is interesting because it's not just like a clean, polished grief story. Like, I love my dad, he died, I'm sad. It's complicated. Sabrina did love her dad deeply, but she also had anger toward him. The relationship had adventure, humor, tenderness, but also resentment, unpredictability, and unfinished words. And then suddenly, he was gone. That kind of grief can leave a daughter carrying questions no one else can answer. Was I too angry? Could I have done something? Would things have been different if I had known it was the last time? I think so many people who have lost someone understands this part of grief. It's not only the absence of the person, it's the relationship that you're left holding. The good, the hard, the guilt, the memories, the version of them you miss, and the version of them you're still trying to understand. Maybe even the version of them that you wish they could have been. Sabrina also speaks so honestly about how loss shaped her drive, how achievement became safety, how doing more, building more, becoming more can sometimes be a way of trying to regain control after life teaches you that, joke's on you, control was never fully yours. But this conversation is also full of hope. It's about the people who help carry us. It's about partnership. It's about community, something that I talk about all the time. It's about forgiveness, learning that grief doesn't disappear, but it can become part of a bigger, more beautiful life. You know, recently I had someone tell me, "You lost your dad at 10 years old? Wow, you seem so happy." And I think the conversation with Sabrina really captures how that's possible. But for every daughter who has lost a parent, especially a father, I do hope this episode feels like, permission. Permission for your grief to be complex, permission to love someone and still tell the truth about them, permission to miss them and also be angry, permission to build a full life, not because the loss didn't matter, but because it did. This is my conversation with Sabrina Clark Rohde. Okay, this is what I know about you. Northwestern for undergrad, working at what did you even do it? What was it? Like McKinsey's a consulting firm, or what is that?
Consulting firm. Just think like corporate America, Fortune 500 companies. We
Yeah.
would be behind the scenes helping them with their executive problems. So like very fancy way to say we got a lot of access to a lot of decision makers.
Yeah, which is awesome. Okay, so you went from there to that, which feels like a big job. You're married to an orthopedic surgeon, which is my cousin, at Cedars-Sinai.
He's officially Dr. Rohde and officially a surgeon, which is a big deal because I used to have to say my husband is a medical student and now I get to say he's a doctor. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into that.
Yes. And then also you run marathons. You started your own company. What Amanda said about you is she's going to be a young CEO soon. So all I'm hearing is all this buzz about you. And I was like, okay, so A, I have to talk to you. But also I know that that's not always the full story and there's always so much behind that. And so I thought you would be a perfect person who is A, super ambitious and super successful, but also has a dynamic story with losing your dad at such a young age, at such a pivotal age.
Yeah.
You were going into college at that time?
Yep,
How old were you? 17?
I was 18, yep.
18. Okay, which is crazy because Georgia was 17. So very similar. So yeah, big transition time and then you lose your dad. So all that to say, that was me highlighting some of your highlights. And I know that there are probably so many more that I'm not even aware of. But what would you want someone listening to this podcast to know about you before we get into all of the juicy parts?
Yeah, I was actually just sitting in the sun with my friend the other weekend. One of those rare occurrences where we were kind of lounging and relaxing, which I honestly don't do any of. And she asked me, she's like, "Where'd you get your drive from?" And I was like, there's something about being the eldest daughter So
Mhm.
it's definitely something about that. But I think that it's like the nature versus nurture debate. Part of me that's just always kind of been a builder and experimenter, a little bit rebellious. I came out of the womb causing problems, like, and I love just kind of shaking things up and have just been like that. But then
Mhm.
I think that there's like another part, which is just when life throws stuff at you, you have to rise to the occasion and you can either let it crumble you or you can think, okay, you know what? At the end of the day, I got this one life. I'm going to make the most of it.
Mhm.
And I will say I was always kind of a high achieving kid, but especially after my dad died, I had this crazy realization moment that I think everyone eventually gets in life. It just depends when you learn this lesson. But life is
Mhm.
fragile. It's a reality for every single person on this planet. But to learn that so young, it really shaped how I viewed the world and what I wanted. Some of the things that came out, especially during my dad's funeral, was like, he lived so many lives in his 47 years. He climbed Mount Everest and he was a business leader and he traveled the world and he accidentally slept next to a bear in Alaska. And like all these people show up from different walks of his life. And I think that made me just want to seize everything out of life. And so a lot of times when people meet me, to answer your question, they'll say, "Oh, you're so bubbly, you're happy, like things seem so great on the outside." And I think that's because I genuinely feel so grateful for how amazing my life is that I choose to focus on all the things that are going super well. And like, there's always a shitstorm going on behind the scenes. And sometimes it's worth talking about, but sometimes it's like, why do we even give it airtime? Like, we should just
Mm.
enjoy the parts that are good. So I think that's like one thing that's worth knowing about me is yeah, I prefer to see the glass half full and seize the most.
I feel like when you lose someone, it creates this urgency. I don't know how long we have. It's crazy that your dad was 47. My dad died when he was 48 and I was 10. And so similarly, like these pivotal times when people lose people at different ages and different stages, right? Like a girl losing a dad is different than a girl losing a mom,
Yep.
and how these all play in together. But like you knew what was happening when your dad died.
It was super sudden. The story I tell is like I had the most beautiful childhood. I grew up in
Mhm.
Massachusetts. I was running around in the woods, playing in the creek with the boys. I have two brothers, one older, one younger. We'd be catching salamanders and going to ski practice and like all the things.
Mhm.
And my dad was this kind of figure of adventure. Like he was always kind of telling crazy bedtime stories and like kind of painting this fantasy vision of life. And so we had a lot of fun. We like leaned into that. And I swear like my full-time job as a child was like yard work. We were
I
outside
love
all
that.
the time, like raking leaves, building tree houses. So we moved when I was 8. We moved to California because my dad got a new job. My mom was a
Mhm.
doctor, so she uprooted her career to do that. And at the time, she took a year off because we thought we were going to move back. Our family ended up falling in love with it. And my mom ended up working at Stanford Medical, which is fantastic. And because of all that moving, I went to 3 different elementary schools. And I
Wow.
like didn't mind. I was the new kid, can make friends quickly.
Mhm.
And it served me later in life. I've moved a bunch after going to college. I lived in Chicago. I've lived in San Francisco. I've moved to New York. I'm back. I'm moving to LA. But
Mhm.
because I did this so much as a kid, I'm adaptable. It's fine. So we were in California and my dad traveled a lot for work and he really suffered with mental health issues. And my parents were very much in love. They met when they were 17 in college and had been college sweethearts, very similar to
Mm.
me and Matt.
Mm.
But, like, it wasn't without their problems, like, there was a lot of trade-offs that my mom had to make for his career and vice versa. I actually just held a lot of resentment against my dad for him being gone all the time. When he was home, he wasn't always present. There was, like, a lot of unpredictability in his behavior and just, like, it was so complicated.
Mm.
So, then we were on a family trip to Florida, which is where we used to go every year with my dad's family. We were celebrating Easter. It's crazy to say in last story with him, but my favorite last story with him was 2 days before he passed away. We go to the gym and it's him and I'm like running on the treadmill and this boy my age near me is running and I look over and my dad like gives me the thumbs up, like eggs me on. It's like, yeah, like beat the boy. So I'm like cranking that treadmill up and then I look over and then the boy's cranking and my dad's laughing like egging me on. And he's just like making fun of this complete stranger with poor child. And I'm like racing the boy on the treadmill and I win and whatever. And it was just so funny. And we were
Mm.
dying laughing. And it just kind of like captured his good humor and competitive spirit. But yeah, he had said like, oh, his shoulder, his neck, his chest was like kind of hurting. And later the following day, him and I were supposed to go to the airport together, and we got in a huge fight. And I was just like so upset with him. And I used to say things like, I'm never talking to you again. You'll never be invited to my wedding. And I didn't even know Matt at this
Yeah.
point, but it's just like mean stuff like that. Like I just was so fed up with his behavior, and he just wasn't always the easiest person. And I was supposed to drive him to the airport, and I refused to. And I told my mom, like, I'm not talking to him ever again, period. And like, this was a huge fight. And then I left, and I went home on my flight. I had an empty seat next to me. And I remember thinking, oh, this is so great. I don't have someone to sit next to. I didn't even think at the time that it was my dad's seat.
Hmm.
I get home. I was home alone. My family was still in Florida. I had to go to school. And I'm like on a hike with one of my friends after school. And my mom calls me.
Hmm.
And I just kind of knew before she even said anything that something was really wrong, and that it was my dad. She said he died. Like, it was just, that was it. It was over before it even started. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing to do then. If someone was sick or they're in the hospital or you have a glimmer of hope, it was just like crushing. And from then on, I like can't even remember how I got home. My friend basically like got me home, and I went
Mhm.
back to Florida the next day. And it was this really weird experience where we were like putting together all these photos of him, and it almost felt like we were celebrating his birthday party or something.
Mhm.
And my dad's name is Randall Livingston Clark Jr. So my grandfather and my brother are named the senior and the third. And
Uh-huh.
and that weekend ever ended up being like Randy. And I would turn and think that my dad was walking through the hallway. The sudden nature of losing him was so wild.
Mhm.
And the fact that we had such a tumultuous relationship, like I had so much anger and resentment, I was forced to really look in the mirror and say, okay, I'm going to either be a resentful person and hold on to bitterness, or like figure out a way to forgive almost everyone in my life. And
Wow.
I just kind of like had this horrible pit in my stomach that it was my fault that he had died, that if I had been with him on the flight, I would have been able to save him. He had a heart attack, and I wasn't there because of my anger. That was 10 years ago. I now know like it's more complicated than that. Like, I probably couldn't have saved him anyways. Now it's just like, why would I even be angry at someone? Like, I'm allowed to be upset, but like, really, what's the point of holding on to this and wasting time? It just
Mm.
serve you. And I think it's because I have so much guilt about that.
Mm. Wow. I didn't know all of that. And sometimes I don't know how to respond because it's
I
so intense. It's so
It's so
intense that shaped your entire life. Ever since I was a little kid, I always wondered, is it worse to lose someone suddenly or lose someone slowly to sickness? And while my dad was sick, he had cancer, but it was short. It was 9 months. It wasn't this like long, drawn out sickness that can be just so difficult. The year before he died, oh, just like a kid in our neighborhood died in a car accident,
Oh my
so
God.
suddenly like that. And so it's always been something that I've thought about. I've always thought that it's worse to lose someone suddenly because of what you just explained. You don't know that you're about to lose someone, and it really drives home that fragility of, is
Well,
this the
what's
last
interesting
time?
is I would almost say the opposite, like, "Oh, it must be worse
Interesting.
to have to, like, drag it on out." Like, it's funny that we think our own circumstances are not as worse, because
Yeah.
what that says to me is, like, we're resilient people. Like, at the end of the day, we survived and grew from it and got through it. And it's like, you almost have so much more empathy for other people. You're like, I couldn't do that again. Like, I can't
Yeah.
imagine it being worse. So, yeah, that's really interesting. I don't envy anyone in any of these scenarios. Like, it's just horrible, anyways.
Right. Yeah. How did you deal with the guilt? I mean, it's been 10 years, but wow, especially knowing that you have been so busy and so productive and efficient for these last 10 years, like, how have you even had space for grappling with that?
Yeah, I wasn't really a spiritual person before losing my dad. But I was a high schooler, so I still had to go finish. It's my senior
Mm.
year. And this was pre-chat GBT and all that. I had to write a handwritten paper in class. Can you believe that?
What? What?
Do
How
they even
old are
do that?
you?
Kids should still do that. Anyways, I had to write this thing, and it just so happened to be a literature class where the topic was masculinity and talking about what fathers look for in their wives versus their daughters. And like my little sassy mind, I was like, really? You're going to make me sit through this right now? And
Yeah.
we had to write this essay. And instead of writing the essay, I gave myself a hall pass and I ended up just like writing this letter to my dad, which I still have somewhere. And I don't know what came over me, but I almost had this like feeling of like a hug or like energy kind of coming behind me, like engulfing me, just comforting. And I mean, I was sobbing in class in front of all my peers, but they all knew what was going on. I didn't honestly, I didn't even feel embarrassed. I just was like, this is where I'm at today. Yeah, I just wrote this long letter and it was almost like a back and forth between my dad where I like, not 2-3 weeks after losing him had this feeling that he came and was like, just please forgive yourself and move forward. I don't know how to describe it because how I felt those kind of 2 or 3 weeks leading up to that moment was just like so guilty. And I felt almost like cleansed after that. And I just genuinely like have never felt like it was my fault alone. I do and continue to feel like there's so much I could learn from it. But yeah, then I mean, I was forced to carry on. I was shipped off to college, went to Northwestern in Chicago, far away from any family. Went off, and within the 3rd week of school, I met my sweet Matthew. I should just add for the podcast. He hadn't been through shit. Like his life was perfect. He's like Midwestern, perfect family, like older sister, younger brother, like cute. But I never met someone more patient, curious, and like he knew he kind of wanted to be a doctor back then. He just had this gift of helping people in a way of like, I don't see you for what's happened to you, but like, I know you can solve it. And I can't even describe why. Like, I don't know why he chose to believe in me then because I felt like the worst version of myself. But it was just like this real confidence building belief that he had in me. And like, we just got through it in many ways. He was my gift. Like, this angel was sent to me. We were in a college bar. This was a Halloween weekend, which freshman year of college is a big thing. Okay. I was wearing a little vampire outfit. I was wearing his wet. And I lost all my friends in the bar. And I turn around. There's kind of a weird couple guys. And I don't really want to talk to them. So I turn around to the stranger and I just look at him and I'm like, hey, can I pretend like I know you? I don't want to talk to those people. So he puts his arm around me and he is like, yes. And we start chit-chatting. We have the best time. And he goes, do you want to go home together? And I was like, whoa. And he's like, no. You misinterpreted. I need a ride home. We taxied back to campus with a bunch of friends. I remember I'm like, I'm not going to give him my number unless he asks. And he was not bold enough to ask. And then we ran into each other for the next 3 days in a row. And he finally asked me on a date and we went out to dinner. Going out to dinner in college too, like that was like a little unheard of. So long story short, when I met Matt, I fell in love instantly. And he felt like this gift that literally fell out of the sky and met me on an elevated surface in a college bar. And he also had all of these characteristics that I had just lost with my dad, like this adventure, this kind of curiosity, the humor. And like, I think I was just like really pulled in by that. And then we like developed into like a wonderful relationship that's now a 3-year-long marriage and a 10-year relationship, which is crazy. So yeah, I think that's how I got through it.
So
Matt saved me. I tell him that. I'm like, I think you saved me. Like the power of community does save you, I think, and people.
Yeah, I full-heartedly believe that. It's so interesting because the way you started this conversation about your dad was like this really fun adventure, all these things. And then there was this turn of like, oh, and he also struggled with some very significant mental health things. And we had a very tumultuous relationship. And it just kind of explores the nuance and how people can be so dynamic and there can be so many good but yet complicated things. I had a pretty complicated relationship with my dad, which is interesting because I was only 10. We just butted heads. We were both stubborn people and I think I really challenged him and I also came out of the womb. There's a lot of similarities. I came out of the womb
wait, so tell me more.
very strong and fierce. it's like you found the best qualities of your dad in Matt. Because a lot of times you marry someone like your parents.
Yeah.
For me, it was so weird because I was like, well, my dad died at 10. Then I had a step parent, and then that didn't go well either. I would also say that Mike has healed. So that's my
Yeah.
long-winded way of saying, like, I don't think I'd be who I am today without my partner as either.
Yeah. You can just tell like, there's something different and refreshing. And sometimes I'm just like, it's like the gift that we received. You're just so hurt and that you're open to receiving something from the universe to kind of take you and save you. And I don't think it doesn't take work. Like there's a lot of work that Matt and I have both put in. I'm sure you two have as well.
For sure.
But sometimes you're just like, thank God for that one. I don't know how I would have survived without it.
Yeah, it's like you meet this person and it's just easy and also just so certain. I've
Yeah.
never been more certain about anyone than I have about my partner.
How old were you when you met?
I was like technically 19, but I was like 5 days away from 20, and we have an
Okay.
age difference. So he thought I was 5 years older. I thought he was 5 years younger, and then we were like, "Oh,
Oh
we're
no.
15 years apart? Like that kind of sucks." It wasn't a problem for me because I was in New York for the last 3 years, and I was like, "Who doesn't have a 15-year age difference?"
Yeah.
But he was like, "No, no, no." So he friend zoned me for a while, and then I finally convinced him. But it was always electric and magnetic between us.
That's how it goes,
I love talking to high achievers. I am a high achiever.
Yes, you
It's very interesting and fascinating to me of like what goes into someone becoming a high achiever. I don't know what your dad did for work, but probably a high achiever is what I'm guessing.
Yep.
And you can speak more to that. Your mom's a doctor,
Mhm.
Stanford Medical, who you
Mhm.
married, who you are. Like I said, my cousin, your sister-in-law, was like, oh yeah, she'll be a CEO really soon.
He's so funny. I love him.
She really was really hyping you up, which was super sweet. Also, your bag company, let me just insert this right now while we're talking about you being a high achiever. When Amanda came, Sandy had your bag, as a good mother-in-law should, right? So she pulls it out. Amanda is literally going through feature by feature
Yeah.
for me. I didn't ask for this. And she's like, and she thought of this and then all these things. And she was just like nonstop talking about how amazing you are. And she's like, and she worked on this from 5 to 9. And she said, you got to work for yourself before you work for someone else.
Yeah. I forgot I said that.
And
Yeah.
Amanda's so like carefree. Amanda was like, if I could quit my job tomorrow, I would. Like, I just want to be adventurous all the time. You married into the perfect family. But anyway, you're so high achieving in so many different ways. Why are you so high achieving? Because of your dad's death, yes. But do you feel like you have to prove yourself? You come from a family of like such success.
My parents never checked my grades once, ever growing up.
Ooh, I love
They
that.
were a family of, we trust you, we believe in you. And like when you didn't meet the mark, it was, we're disappointed in you. But like I never got grounded. I don't say you didn't have consequences because I did. I was told no to things. So like I couldn't just have anything I wanted, but I wasn't forced like into it. But I just always had a really high standard for myself.
Yeah.
Upon reflection, it comes from kind of control or like feeling safe. And especially when you have a tumultuous relationship with your parent, you're moving a lot, things are changing. Like I went to 3 different elementary schools, I moved all the time, I had all these different friend groups. It's like the one thing I knew that was in my wheelhouse was like, get A's or knock this out of the park. The way my parents parented me instilled a ton of confidence in me. And since I grew up with my brothers, they raised me like a boy. Like they never once told me like I couldn't do something. And in fact, just whenever someone said you couldn't do it, I started to develop this, okay, watch me do it. So I had
Literally.
this antagonistic little attitude a little bit where I wanted those things. And my parents, yeah, they never checked my grades, but they would say no. Like if I wanted to go do something, they'd be like, okay, we'll figure out how to go. Like if you want to go to the movies with your friends, like how are you going to pay for it? And I'm like, oh, I get a job. Like, so I worked when I was 16 or I tutored or I had camps or like I would always be doing these things. And I didn't realize they were so entrepreneurial at the time until later, but they just like started to build little wins. I love talking to high achievers too. Like when you look at successful people, they didn't just like walk out and on their first hit be successful. It's like they have built a track record of believing in themselves to take risks and then proving to themselves that they can execute. And not every time does it work. Like there's been a million failures, a million missteps, a million times I didn't get the job. but it's like because you've known you've done something before, you can kind of do it again. And I have countless stories. I ended up working at McKinsey, this big fancy firm, which I loved, and it was amazing. But like, they didn't even give me an interview for my internship round. That was my first no. And I was like, okay, I'm coming back in a year and I'm going to get the job
Yeah.
and I'm going to prove I'm the
Watch
best one
me.
at the job. And then when I got there, I was like, I'm going to show them that I'm the best employee they ever had. And I worked my tail off. And then I was the youngest manager in the history of the firm there
Oh my
because I was like,
gosh.
you know what? I have to provide for my husband. Like, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to show them that I can do that. And so
Mhm.
in meritocracy cultures, like, I really thrived. There's like this can-do attitude. I think the other example that's worthwhile, and it's honestly like a little bit gendered, but I was a math major. And this started accidentally by following my interests. I was a communication studies major, and you just have to select classes when you start. And so I just like slotted in a math class. And everyone's like, why are you taking math in college? Like, you don't have to take math anymore. I'm like, I just like it. Like it's logical. I just kept hearing people being like, why are you doing this crazy, crazy, crazy? And I looked around the room and there was like almost no women there. And then I started to hear that you can't do it. And
Oh.
I just really don't like not knowing what's on the other side of things. So like when I was working late nights in consulting and traveling or studying for math, it's like the fear of how bad it could be was worse for me than just like ripping off the Band-Aid and doing it. I
Mm.
do not procrastinate hardly anything in my life because the angst I feel of like thinking about the doom is just so bad that I just want to almost like, I think of it like popping the bubble. It's like anytime I
Mm.
see something big and shiny and far away that like says you can't be done, I just want to go and like pop the bubble and see what's inside.
Hmm.
And that's kind of how I think the achievement really started. But I will say for a long time, it was for control. It was my self identity. It was to kind of like feel grounded and like I knew who I was. I was the best. That's
Mm.
who I wanted to be. It wasn't until I quit my big fancy job and I was then 26, 27. I was at a horrible work environment job. I was quote unquote failing at my job, not hitting numbers that I had set for myself, not earning as much money as I used to be earning. Like I had to actually take a step back and say, okay, I need an identity separate from my achievement. I was traveling so much for work. I was gone every Monday through Thursday. I realized when I stopped traveling at this new job, I hadn't developed any community in New York. I'd been putting so much into my job, so much into my career that when that all kind of fell apart, if you will, like I was like, who am I? Like, who are my people? What do I have? And I felt really lonely. I felt pretty depressed. I felt horrible. My health was
Mm.
bad. It took me probably a good 9 to 12 months to recover from that. And a lot of it was self reflection and figuring out to detach myself from just like a check mark and that someone else's ladder is not how I want to define my life. And then also getting myself back in environments where I was like feeling confident and good again. I think that there is a benefit to doing things that you're good at and being a high achiever because you build this confidence, but like it needs to be balanced with the fact of, okay, I am not the achievement. I am somebody
Mhm.
whole today as one person. And like these things make me feel good and are part of my life, but not my whole.
Right. And if you strip away all the accomplishments, what do you actually have? Right.
Yeah.
And that's the community and the relationships and the
Yeah.
people that you can trust. And that's at the end of the day, the highest achievement.
All these women at Stanford were like all talking about this. And I think a lot of people here are like, you know what? I've done the achievement thing. We all had the biggest, fanciest jobs in the world. Like it was great. Like we could have stayed. But what do I want now? And what's hard is like a lot of us want families. Like there's trade-off between being the world's next top CEO and being a really amazing leader of your family, which is like
Ugh.
so important. And I think it's so understated too how much women's communities, networks, the way that they raise their kids actually like are the backbone for a family and the family's economic value and like all these other things that are like super tangible. So, anyways, you could get me on a soapbox with that
Well, I
one.
was going to say, how are you grappling with all of that? Because I find it very interesting, the idea of women and women who are high achievers that also really value family. So like, what are you doing about it?
We're all pissed off. We're all like, can you have it all? I think what we hear, we don't like. What we hear is you can have it all at different times. We don't like that. We want it all the time, whenever we want, right? Like, it's like that
Mhm.
pop the bubble. Like, I don't want to hear that. I want to have a fulfilling career. I want to have a balance with my family. Like, I want to have a great partnership. I want to be healthy. I want to be stylish. I want to hang out with my girlfriends. Like, I want to do sports still. I don't want to sacrifice anything. It's impossible, yet it's possible with the right order of prioritization, maybe.
Mhm.
And I think I'm starting to believe more and more that different seasons are for different prioritization. A great example is like Matt just graduated medical school.
Yay.
We're so proud of him. He worked his tail off for it. He is the male in the partnership here, and his career has totally taken priority in terms of thinking about where we live, etc. But at the end of the day, it was my career, the one that creates a foundation for our family to be able to go do these things, to move, etc. And especially with a medical career, it's going to be another 5+ years for the tables to switch. And so
I see.
I think what's challenging is women's careers are oftentimes the underpinning of a family's economic health, honestly, but they're not always given priority order and choice. And it's not like Matt's fault. It just
Right.
structurally, that's what happens. So when we look at all the women here at Stanford, the men who came here who have partners, those partners have moved with them. So the women have uprooted their lives and all their partners live on campus. The women who have partners, which is most of them, the men are not here. We're all in long distance relationships. The men have not uprooted
Interesting.
their lives. We will go back and join them when we are done. It's statistically significant. I'm a math major. I looked at the numbers. Like, it's wild. If that's the society we're working on, I don't need to get on a soapbox about it, but we need to evaluate that. Then fine, I don't want to be working in banking 110 hours if I'm still not going to have priority choice in where my career goes. To me, it's a double-edged sword. You can't blame men for everything also. Like, societal norms haven't caught up to them kind of having a trade-off of roles as well. We're all here specifically for pivot careers or accelerator careers, and we're all having existential crises around like, okay, what does a fulfilling life look like with a career? And like, what role do I want my career to play in that? Versus, I think a lot earlier mindsets would more collectively have been, let me just drive as hard as I can in my career to get myself in a good place.
Is there any conversation about can you be a CEO and not be only a CEO and do all the things too? Maybe more of a work balance for any gender who's in that position, you know? Or
Yeah,
is it
I
just
mean,
not possible?
I think there is. It's really funny is, I mean, you're a mom, like you get it, but like watch a woman get something done. She'll do it in half the time because she doesn't have the time. So I like to joke when I was working in consulting, a lot of people would just get crushed by these grueling hours. And many times that was the case for me. And a lot of times the travel was a lot. But I was a ruthless prioritizer. And I would say I'm going to bed at 10 p.m. No matter what, I have to go to bed at 10 p.m. because any work I do after 10 is going to be horrible. I'm going to have to redo it in the morning. And it's not productive. And like, when you give yourself a boundary, sometimes your work is better. It's crisper, it's sharper because you're not crowded by everything else. I think that women are very effective leaders. In fact, they're extremely efficient and they do things a different way. I think what's hard is when you try to throw a woman into an extremely male oriented or traditional environment that doesn't understand those ways of working or doesn't have enough flexibility to like leverage the strengths of creative ways of working, that you're like,
Mm.
okay, well, you can't be an effective leader in an environment that's not going to support you at all.
While I'm not working on that level, I've actually chosen to work part-time in the last 8 years being a mom. But in the last year is when I've been like, okay, I stopped breastfeeding my youngest. We're not having any more kids, at least planned. And all of a sudden I got this new burst of energy of like, okay, all these things I've been thinking about for the last years, I'm going to
Yeah.
now do. And so now I've been working a lot more. Well, it's weird. It's like when you work for yourself, it's like I'm working a lot more, but I have all the control and
Yes.
flexibility. So it's like interesting. So my husband and I have kind of shifted because he's always made way more money than I have, also self-employed, also an entrepreneur. And there's been this like shift of like, okay, well, now do I have the priority? And
Yeah.
then kind of like he's more at home potentially now. And so we're shifting, like I'm handing him those reins. He still makes more money than I do. Ugh. I told him, I was like, one day I'm going to make more money than you. And
One
he's
day,
like, why do you care about that? And I was like, because I'm the fairness police and I
for
just
me,
want to be able to say that. Yeah. The way my brain works, I am constantly ticking through tasks. Like if I'm going upstairs, I'm bringing something that
yeah,
needs to go upstairs, like the efficiency piece, or
yeah,
like I've been editing my podcast while walking on the treadmill so that I can do two things at the same
all done
time.
together. Yeah,
It's all this like ecosystem in our brains that I feel like we don't get enough credit for sometimes.
yeah,
And my mom will tell you, growing up, I cared about fairness. And so these things piss me off, these
yeah,
gender norms.
yeah. Yeah, they do. I've had a lot of friends who are like, Sabrina, how are you not, pissed off about the money thing? Also, I love talking about money. Like I studied finance. I think the more we talk about it, the better it is for all of us. And I joke too because I like know all my friends' salaries and I help them negotiate higher salaries. Like that's who I
Oh my
want to
God.
be. I'm like, I want us all to elevate. But I'm
Yeah.
like, at the end of the day, it's a partnership. So if you genuinely feel you have partnership, like you stop caring. And that's at least where I'm at with that. I'm like, okay, like personally, it doesn't actually matter between the two of us as long as we're both pursuing things that we love, we're passionate about, we think are
Yeah.
doing good for the world, our lives, etc. But yeah, I mean, it's
But you're saying that because you made more money than him. And you get to be like, yeah, I funded this
yeah.
little doctor thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, which is hard. I have some friends who just, they don't need to work.
Yeah. I've actually wrestled with the like, okay, so what happens if you don't need to work and you still want to work? Because I care so much about the family system. I am a family
Yeah.
systems therapist and I care about women's health. I care about all of these things.
Mhm.
So it's like, how does this all fit together in this bigger system of what we value, what we prioritize? Is
Yeah.
it okay to be an overachiever? Is it just always trying to prove your worth? I wrestle with
Yeah.
this because I'm so ambitious and
Yeah. Where I've landed personally is if we really didn't want to work, we probably could find a way not to. Like, I think, especially with Matt being a doctor, maybe not in the next 5 years, but like at that 5 year mark, if I really didn't want to work, I wouldn't have to. And so, in some regards, that's really liberating because I can just say, okay, like, what do I want to work on? I think
yeah,
the reality is it hasn't actually been liberating because it's been a lot of responsibility for the last 10 years. But if you have optionality, because not all families do. First, we're in extremely
yes,
privileged positions to have wonderful partners where we're like, okay, if it's going to be optional, I'm going to find something that I really want to do that I'm good enough at and can learn from and like
mm.
is going to get me energized. And I think about my mom as an example. She was a pediatrician. She just retired after 30 years of working.
Oh, thank you,
And
mom.
she worked around 2.5 to 3 days a week our whole lives. And she used to joke and she used to tell me, Sabrina, I would have killed you if I did not work. Like for her, like having something else like added so much value to her and
Yeah,
therefore her partnership and the family. And I don't know that that's the case for everyone, but for me, I have to. I love projects. I love throwing myself into things. I enjoy it. Work is like part of my life and my rhythm in a way that actually energizes me.
same.
And it's a good reminder whenever you're like, I'm working a lot. It's like, okay, let's remind ourselves like why. And it's because I like, enjoy it. There's like parts of it that are great. And I talked to Amanda a lot about this. For context, Amanda is also an entrepreneurially oriented woman. She has her own private practice and is a freelancer in speech therapy. We have so many similar values, but different mindsets when it comes to work. One of the things that she's taught me is like, Sabrina, if you love to do all these things, you need to carve out meaningful space and time for the things that are not work. And one of the things I've taught her is like, okay, but where in your work are you enjoying it? So you're not just clocking in and out.
Yeah.
I like get fired up by collaborating and brainstorming with people. Like if I can do that for 2 hours a day and then I have to do like Excel crunching for the other two, like that's fine. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that balance matters.
Yeah, I feel very similar to your mom, where I have realized I am a better parent when I have some more space and I'm doing something that feels like mine because, yeah, I'm so grateful for that time away. I'm more patient. I'm more engaged when I've been able to step away and work. And then when I come back, what does your dad do for work?
He was in marketing. So he
Okay,
worked in payment processing. I was less than 18. So my interest in his career was minimal at best.
sure. Yeah.
All I knew is that he was gone or he was here. I'm so curious your take on this. One of the conversations that's been going around here recently is the role of moms in our lives professionally. This concept that growing up, you go to mom first for almost everything. But then you graduate college and you start almost exclusively going to dad for career advice. You and I don't have dads, so we don't do that.
Yeah.
But doctor career doesn't transfer quite as much to like a business career. It's a whole different like hierarchical system. I find my brothers and I helping each other. I'm curious if from a mom's perspective and like an expert on families, like how do you think about that as like an identity as a mother and like what that becomes over time? Is that something that you're concerned about? Is that something that like other moms think about? Like what does like the identity of a mom look like for moms who like choose not to work?
First, I want to say that everyone has different priorities of how they want to live their life, right? Like, I think feminism has gotten a bad rep because we think, oh, it's the person who's protesting that has armpit hair that's a feminist. No, all feminism is we want women to be able to choose the life that they want to live. If they want to stay at home making sourdough bread, amazing, do that, right? If you want to be working full time and be the main breadwinner, great. I think having an identity separate from family is really healthy, whether you are a stay-at-home mom or not, right? I know some amazing stay-at-home moms that have wonderful like knitting and arts, creative outlets that they find a lot of solace in and enjoyment. This is what I find interesting. Women have been entering the workforce and we're like, okay, so now we can be the mom and we can be the work person, but it's so hard because we're doing all of it all the time. Whereas men feel like they get the choice of being more of a present dad, right? As opposed to entering the workforce, we're forced to hold both things.
Yeah.
Whereas men are like, I'm still holding this. And like, yeah, I'm not going to show up a little bit more. And we're like, oh my gosh, good job. Like, he's such a good dad. He's so present. But then we almost like make women look bad for wanting things outside of the home. There's been narratives around that. And like, you should be at your house doing the sourdough. I do wish I could make sourdough. How do we talk about these things and hold these things so that there is this conversation around, okay, it's almost 7:00 where I live and my husband's been at home with the kids since 4:00. That doesn't make me a bad mom. I have known stay-at-home moms though that have never really found their own identity and are very codependent with their adult children. And I personally don't find it healthy. I also think that we all have these different qualities and skills. Like there might be some things that come easier to men if we're looking at it from like a stereotypical gender role, but we're also like selling men short by saying that they can't also be like more of that soft energy for their children. My husband's extremely, well, he's a musician and an artist, so he's like very emotional and wonderful. We were at dinner the other night. My husband started crying at dinner, and he's like a man's man too, okay? Like he's both. He was crying at dinner because he was talking about the book. Do you remember the book, like I'll Love You Forever? It's kind of has this rhythm to it, and it's like this mom growing up with this son at different ages. Like she basically goes in every night and like holds him, and then he's growing up, and then the ending is he's holding her as like an old lady. And my husband is crying at dinner telling me this, and I'm just like, you're the more emotional and sensitive person in the relationship. Like he's crying at commercials and I'm like stoic.
I know.
I am deeply feeling though. So I don't know. That was just kind of a random tangent of all these different things, but I just feel like we can challenge all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's good to have these conversations.
Yeah. And like back to our earlier thread, for me, it's like just live your life. Do the most. Do the most that you want to do. Like just take a step back and think about like, what is it that I want out of this life? Short term and long term, because you can't just plan for the short term and be like, I have to maximize every day. And you can't just put off things for your retirement or whatever, because like it could never come. But like, what is it that you like? What is it that you want to do? What makes you happy? What makes you a better person? All these kind of questions. And I almost like to think of it as like taste. Like all of your choices are your personal taste. Who are you surrounding yourself with? Are they friends that make you happy? Are you kind and patient with your partner? How can you be more of that? Those are some of the areas that I'm really focused on for my life. And personally, I journal a lot. I have a practice around it. It's not every single day, but it's very frequent. Those are the principles I come back to. And I do think that came from seeing life just go like that fast. Those things have made me happier. It's given me the perspective to be able to like actually get to enjoy my life, I think, while working hard and like while doing a lot.
You have a stepdad, right? Maybe speak to what that's been like to have your mom remarry and bring someone else into the picture.
She started dating maybe 3 years after we lost my dad. So she was just around 50, 51-ish.
Mm.
She had never dated anybody but my father. They
Wow.
met when they were 17. So she like literally had never been on a date either because they met in college. You don't do that in college. You're like babies. I was not very helpful because I met Matt also when I was 18. I had never downloaded a dating app. Like we're some of the
Yeah.
only ones of our friends who've just kind of missed that part. And then there's like this older generation who's like back on the apps. I think a result of losing my dad is that the four of us nuclear family became really, really close in very positive ways and sometimes codependent ways. But like my mom and I almost have a friendship in a sense. For us, it's really beautiful. It can sometimes be like confusing as we negotiate our roles, but she leaned on me and I couldn't be that helpful because I'd never really done that. Like, I didn't really know what I was doing either. And so I actually had a lot of good friends, and she had a lot of good friends who helped her, set up her profile, go on these dates. And I think it was a horrible process for her.
Mm.
It was just like a lot of dead ends. Like,
I
meeting
know.
someone, especially in your 50s, like, it just can't be easy, especially when you've
Yeah.
like co-built a life with someone for so long. And she would call me and she would cry. And it was really, really hard for me because I really wanted her to be happy and I didn't want her to be lonely. But I also was like, I don't want to hear about all this as well. And so when she met Alex, she immediately really liked him and thought he was funny. He and her kind of like refound the zest for life. They hit it off immediately. And Alex moved very quickly. And my mom was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I think for my mom, it was really important for her to maintain her independence. So she stayed with her current job. She stayed in her current home, kept a lot of things in her life very stable as they developed their relationship. And he did as well. And so I think the two of them went through a huge growth curve. They became partners to each other in a way neither of them could have ever done before. For example, with my mom, because my dad was a difficult person, she could blame her problems on him because he was like objectively difficult. But when you don't have that person to blame, you suddenly have to take responsibility for everything in your life and vice
Mm.
versa. Like, Alex's former partner, like, I don't know what happened there, but when they're not there, like, you suddenly have ownership over everything that you're doing. And so a majority of the time, yeah, you're just happier maybe because you've like credit out some of the toxic, but like, you also get illuminated to yourself of like what you needed to work on. And so the
Mm.
two of them worked on themselves too. And I think I saw that a lot. Like it's wild to say, but like I saw personal growth amongst both of them. And because my mom and I were so close and Alex has never tried to overstep, like it almost feels like going on a double date when Matt and I go out to dinner with them. Like it's really fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we slowly over time got to develop our own personal relationship. I am running the Berlin Marathon with Alex this fall.
That's so
This will
cool.
be our like third marathon together. We're running the full World Series. It's the World Majors.
I know, the 7 majors. How do you have time to train for a marathon?
Oh my God, I literally just did my 13 miles today. I'm like, oh, but I did half this morning by myself and then I did half with a friend and I chit chatted the whole time. So it's like
Oh, that's
social. Like
fun.
these
Yeah.
are enjoyable things for me. So, anyways, long story short,
Yeah.
he's phenomenal. They are great. We have our own relationship. It was probably easier for me to develop that before my brothers. He also has 4 kids. So his relationship with his kids looks different than my mom's with her kids. And so there's like
Mhm.
for sure dynamics and tension and like weird stuff. But they've been married 4 years together, like a little bit more than that. So like we've gotten all used to each other. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, you just kind of figure it out.
Do you feel like there's any feelings about feeling close to him, knowing that your relationship with your dad was tumultuous?
What I'm really grateful for is that we have our own unique relationship. And I've never felt like he was my father or like a step in. I think because I was so old when I lost my dad
Yeah.
and then even older when he came into our lives. I'm curious for you because it's like when you're a child and you're at home and like someone's in your home, it's like a completely different environment.
Oh, yeah.
My husband was in my life before he was. I was like already
Yeah.
my own nuclear family before him. That being said, we have a nice independent relationship and I would liken it almost to like an uncle or like a cousin or like some
Yeah.
figure like that. I feel grateful for it because I don't know that that could happen with just any partner that my mom could have ended up with.
I think it says something, the fact that you guys do have this connection, knowing that you were your own person and you
Mhm.
really didn't have to give him any time of day because it's not like he was in the house with you. And still, you want to invest in that relationship to the point that you guys are running all 7 marathons together.
Yeah.
Like, that's really cool. It feels like such a, well, I don't want to say redemption because I don't want to discredit your dad, but as someone who lost their dad at
Yeah.
10 and then had an unfortunate step parent
Yeah.
situation. I don't want to say I'm jealous of that, but I
Yeah.
feel like it pulls on my heartstrings to hear those
Yeah.
stories. And for me,
Yeah.
what's been redemptive is seeing my husband with my daughters and my son
Yeah.
and be like,
Yeah.
damn, I did such a good job
I
choosing
did
your
it.
dad.
Yeah. I mean, I just have to say I'm grateful for it. One of my highest values is family. Like, I really care about family. So I do put a lot of time into being around and going on family trips and like visiting and planning things around our family. So I think if that wasn't like high on my values list, I could have easily not spent any time with them and just kind of like done my own thing. It worked out. And I do feel really grateful for it because I've seen it not be that easy in a lot of situations. It's not without its complications. It's complicated, especially with step siblings. I mean, just 7 children with partners, like that's hard to coordinate. And I think my other new chapter of life, like especially as we evolve from our friendships, I have friends from different chapters. So like whether that's like elementary school and high school friends, college friends, now like a new batch of Stanford business school friends.
Stanford girlies.
Stanford, I love the Stanford girlies. And just taking people where they're at and being like, I'm just going to enjoy your best qualities and be aware of the ones where like I can't depend on you for, but like
Dang, that's good advice.
we're going to work on it together. Like there's really no reason for me to get involved. And I have the best, closest circles. I don't need all the excess. That lesson, like, come back around of like forgiveness, where I'm like, you know
Mm,
what? If you're going to live your life that way and it's not that aligned with me and we see each other once at Christmas, like, that's totally fine. Let's just
yeah.
enjoy each other when we're together. And like, I just know what to expect. And then, you have your close court, which I'm very, very, very conscientious of like curating who is in my close court because I do think you are who you surround yourself with.
Oh, absolutely. I always say that I like to surround myself with people better than me so that
Yes.
I can be better.
Yeah, like every single one of my friends, I'm like, they're better than me at something, like many things. I
Yeah.
would almost never be friends with someone who I don't see how they're better than me. And like, that doesn't mean more achievement. Like, it's just like they're
No.
kinder, they're more compassionate, have an interesting perspective. Like, there's just so much you can learn from everyone. If you don't feel like you're learning from someone, they shouldn't be your
Yeah.
friend.
No, I agree. And I could ask you about 1,000 more questions because so many questions have popped into my head, like thinking about the comparison game and when you're
Yeah.
in these success driven industries, right? That like you could really fall into the opposite of that, of like being super critical of yourself and comparing yourself to all these people. But it sounds like you guys all kind of come up together, like you guys are all supporting each other.
My tenet is team wins. And it started in college when my girlfriends first got jobs. We would stand on the kitchen table and celebrate and throw a party for them to get their job. And like
Mm.
one went into film, one went into celebrities, one went into finance, I went into consulting. Like we all went into such different things. It was really easy to not have any jealousy and just celebrate each other. But
Mm.
we've carried that forward and I've brought it to different friend groups. And my first thought is like, be the culture change you want to see. So like, I
Mm.
love that. So I bring it with me. And my second thought is like, when your team is winning, when your girls are winning, when your family's winning, you are winning. Like, I can't tell you how many jobs I got rejected from, but because all my girlfriends had these amazing jobs, they would help me, prep me, make me better for my interviews. And then one day I'm like, they'll hire me. If not, I'll hire them. I think it's a huge miss for people who don't have that attitude.
I
And
agree.
it's also way less fun.
I so agree with all of that, that, yeah, you're just speaking my language. Okay, so Sabrina, Rhodey Clark, Wait, you
That's
have to show me the bag. I wanted to
Oh,
show
yeah.
everyone.
So here is my bag company.
Yes?
This is the Louise bag, named after my best friend, Louise, who works in finance. The bag was made because I was traveling a ton for work and I felt like I was lacking femininity and personal style in the workplace that really valued functionality, performance, etc.
Mm,
And I needed to perform. I needed to be like on my top A game, super efficient. But all the work bags were like these ugly, masculine, bulky
ew.
bags. They were so ugly. And the designer bags didn't have any pockets. And it was just almost like a metaphor for much of our conversation, which was about being a woman, the duality of womanhood,
Yes.
getting shit done and wanting to do it in a beautiful, graceful way. And so I started a collection of bags because we carry everything, us ladies.
Oh, okay. That's a really good marketing tool. We carry everything. That's
um,
awesome.
just launched in September and it's been really exciting. And I love building businesses. So it's been really fun to, experiment with branding and marketing and operations and materials, etc. What I care about on top of just having a super beautiful, functional, amazing collection is how it's done. So everything is made fully sustainably with
Mm,
super high quality leather at ateliers that are women owned, which in leather is like almost unheard of. Like
wow.
all the people that we work with are just like phenomenal people. How business gets done is so important on top of what gets done.
That's so true. So this is like passion project turned into like a real ass bag.
Passion project that came to life. It's so fun, like especially in business, like you do all this stuff on the computer and PowerPoints, et cetera, et cetera. It's so fun to like touch and feel a product that you made. Like it smells good.
Yeah,
It's leather. I remember the first day I got my samples. Matt was like, "You made that?" And I'm like, "I made it."
I love that. You're starting your own businesses. You're getting your MBA.
I have one more year left at Stanford, and then I will have earned my MBA. Rohde Veni bag collection is live and doing well, and we're hoping we can
Woo!
do some more collections. And right now, I've been diving deep into the future of retail, commerce, and how brands are made. And so I'm hoping to work on some ideas that one bring Rohde Veni to the next level, but two kind of transform how we do retail, especially in this digital era. I'm excited. I'm having a lot of fun, and we'll be moving to LA for Matt's surgical residency. So I look forward to diving even deeper into the world of fashion.
Gosh, that's so exciting. I am not fashionable. I'm very like tomboy chic,
Yeah, but see,
something
everyone
like
has
that.
personal style. That's like what matters.
Yeah,
Everyone has style. Just depends
yeah,
how you want to do it.
yeah. Mine's more like subtle, casual. If a kid was grieving a parent, kid, teenager, what advice would you want them to know as someone who's 10 years post
Yeah.
losing someone? Because it's not linear.
Don't listen to what anyone tells you because they want to help, but like no one knows exactly how you're feeling right now. No matter what anyone tells you, it's not going to be perfect. It's probably going to be wrong, but there are many people there that are supporting you out of love and are trying to tell you that you're going to get through it. And through a combination of them and what you find deep in yourself, you will get through it and you will and are able to live an amazingly beautiful life. You just got to get through it.
Yeah. Yeah. And getting through it is not linear. I think grief is super, I don't know, like ubiquitous is the word that came to mind, but I don't know if that's the right thing.
Yeah.
It's like this whole thing, right? That comes and it goes. And that sometimes in this deep pain is when you find the most transformation and the
Yeah.
most growth. Like I've heard people say, I can clock someone who's been through real stuff. And similarly, I also married someone who also had a perfect childhood. And it
I
is
so,
such an interesting
yes.
balance. I know you are so busy. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you so
giving us your
much.
time on the Check In with Dylan.
Oh my God, it was so good to catch up. Sending you guys lots of love.
Oh, I just love all of the turns this interview took. I am so grateful for Sabrina for taking the time out of her massively booked schedule, because when I think about this episode, I think about how grief asks us to hold things that feel impossible to hold at the same time. Love and anger, gratitude and resentment, memory and some regret. the person someone was and the person we wanted them, needed them to be. Sabrina's story is such a powerful reminder that grief isn't clean. Sometimes the people we lost were also the people who hurt us, confused us, disappointed us, or left us with questions. And then when death comes suddenly, we don't really get that final conversation. We have to sit with no perfect repair, but there can always be healing. Not the kind where everything makes sense, not even the kind where you never feel the ache again, but the kind where you stop punishing yourself for being human. The kind where you let love be bigger than the last fight. The kind where you realize that forgiveness doesn't mean pretending it was simple. It means choosing not to let the pain become the only story. Yes, it's part of it, but it's not all of it. I was really moved by what Sabrina said about, quote, getting through it. It's not getting over it, not fixing it. I talk about that a lot. It's not even making it inspirational too quickly. It's just kind of like getting through it, putting one foot in front of the other with the help of people who love you. Someone who can hold your head up when you want to kind of cave in. Our stories shape us, there's no doubt about it. Our losses shape us, our family systems shape us. And when we're willing to look honestly at what we've carried, we give ourselves a chance to live with more intention, compassion, and honesty. So, if you're a daughter grieving her dad, or you're a child carrying guilt, or maybe you're the person who looks super successful on the outside but is still holding something tender underneath, I hope this episode reminds you that your grief is allowed to be complicated, and you're still allowed to build a beautiful, full, robust life. If this episode moved you, I'd love for you to share it with someone who might need it, especially someone grieving a parent, carrying guilt, or trying to make sense of a complicated relationship after loss. And, of course, if these conversations have been helpful to you, please follow the Check-In with Dillan wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really does help the podcast and my Instagram grow and reach more people who are trying to understand how their stories, families, and losses have shaped them. It also allows me to get different guests who are dynamic and have something interesting to say. Thank you so much for being here, for supporting, listening, and for checking in. Have a good one.